I've always associated the file with metalworking, but it's got its place in woodworking, and we're going to talk about that today. Hey there, friends. As we continue working our way through the Handbook of Sloyd, the Teacher's Handbook of Sloyd, we turned to Exercise 13, which is filing, and it's one that I've actually skipped. Moved on. If you've seen the other videos, you know we're into our 20s now, but it's this whole idea of filing. I just naturally associate that with metalwork, not with woodworking, but it does have its place in woodworking. So let's see what the book has to say about it. Filing is to dress up rough surfaces. Now, how do you do that? When the plane surface of an end piece is to be dressed up, and when Otto Saloman says plane surface, he means flat surface. When the plane surface of an end piece is to be dressed up, the wood should be secured in the carpenter's bench. If on the other hand, the surface is convex, the work should be merely supported on it. In the former case, the handle of the file is firmly grasped in one hand, whilst the other rests upon the back of the blade near the point. The tool is then passed steadily and evenly over the surface, pressure being exerted only when the file is going from the worker. If the work merely rests on the bench, the file can of course only be worked with one hand. When rounded surfaces are filed, the tool is worked in the direction of the fibers, or when this is impossible, obliquely to them. Now, to be completely honest, I had a hard time understanding what he was talking about, but have been thinking about it, and hopefully we got a solution to that. So the file is different than the rasp. This is a multi-bladed rasp. It's got a really coarse area here, and this will take off a lot of material very quickly and leave a very rough surface. If we get into the finer blades, this turns more into a file, and of course the file has varying degrees of coarseness. The finer the file, the finer the finish. So, according to Saloman, you should always support the work on the bench. You should secure it in the bench vise whenever possible. But you remember this? This is our old friend from actually the very first project we did. We started carving out spoons and things like that. Well, this handle is very rough, and there's quite a few different ways we could dress this up. We could do it with a spoke shave or some other tools, but we haven't reached those yet. So we can do it with a file. So make sure it is secured in the bench vise to eliminate as much as you can wobble. So a mistake that I commonly make with the file is I want to go back and forth like this, but the book is clear. You should go in one direction only. All right, so you can see we're actually fairly quickly taking off the knife marks and the rough areas that were previously left. Okay. When you're filing the end grain, we got to make sure that we are going with the fibers as much as possible. So we're not going to go straight across the end grain like this. We're going to come up, round, and kind of go oblique to them. But by using different coarseness of files, we can actually get a finish ready surface. So we've talked before about how Saloman really decries the use of sandpaper. Sandpaper should be used very sparingly. And one of the tools that he lists to be able to dress up the wood is the file. So even though I'm using the even though I'm using the finer blades here on this particular tool, it's still leaving a pretty rough surface. Okay? So that's where you would move then to the next finer grit. I honestly don't have a selection of files. This is my triangular file I use for saw teeth. That's why I got the file. I don't do that as much as I should. But this is a much finer file, and it gives us a much cleaner. Okay, so the idea, grasp the file near the tip, pressure going away from you. And I'll work on the ridges, get those smoothed down. Okay, there we go. That is quite a bit better. It doesn't take long. But I guess you would use a file just like you would sandpaper and get progressively finer and finer until you ended up with the surface that you like. All right. This technique is actually going to come in handy when we do our very next project, which is to make a coaster holder. So if you remember, we made these coasters in our last project video. Next, we're going to do a coaster holder, and we're going to need to use filing to clean up those edges. Alrighty, friends, new technique for us. Something I'm going to have to practice some more and kind of work this into my woodworking, because it's something I've never really given much consideration before. But I'll work on that. And friends, take care. God bless.